All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope we are doing well. As Devin just introduced me, my name is Luke Hopkins. Before I get into anything about myself, I think we all owe Brady a huge round of applause for putting on this and for everything he has helped us through. So, Brady, thank you very much for being you, for creating TUA, and for all that you do. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about the importance of navigating mental health in young athletes and understanding the many ups and downs of growing up, because at the end of the day, life is not linear and we're all just some big kids trying to figure it out as constant works in progress. So to start out, a little bit more about who I am. I am a 21-year-old senior at the University of Southern California. I major in neuroscience and minor in psychology. Additionally, I have worked with Brady and TUA for about a year now, and it has been an absolutely amazing time, an amazing experience filled with ample amounts of growth. And being an athlete is definitely something that has defined my whole life from a very early age up until where I am today. So to start us off, I want to kind of give you guys a holistic view of who I am, and sports and performing has definitely been something I've, like I said, always been a part of my life. From an early age, I played baseball. I have 2 older brothers and 2 older cousins, so I was always the youngest of the pack, always playing against kids older than me, but wouldn't change it for the world. Additionally, I have a background in swimming. I swam competitively for 8 years up until I was 12 years old. Was the New England regional champion when I was 9 years old. No big deal. And then additionally, if you caught what I had said and look in the far picture to the left, performing, specifically theater, was something that I used to be very interested in and ended up acting in every single possible school play, additional summer camps, you name it, I was a part of it. And I don't share all this with you to try and gas up my 12-year-old self. I share it all with you so that you have context into knowing how much my life changed at that early of an age. So, in April of 2015, I distinctly remember the day. I was at a carnival with a few of my friends when I had received a text from my mom saying that my grandma was coming to pick me up. Upon arriving, my 2 brothers were in the back seat. I was brought home, and upon walking in the front door, I was immediately met with my extended family, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, and our pastor. And me, my 2 older brothers, and my younger sister had been brought into our living room. Everyone had kind of gathered in, and I distinctly remember my priest squatting down and looking into my eyes, and the first thing he had said to me is, "I want to let you know that he is still alive." And what he would go on to explain is that my father, who was a former train engineer, was working on a defective train when he was electrocuted. 60% of his body was covered in 3rd-degree burns. His entire left leg was disintegrated, and he was in the Yale Hospital intensive care unit. It was a lot. It definitely was a lot for a 12-year-old to hear, and I remember this falling feeling as I tried to wrap my head around my biggest supporter, my number 1 fan, potentially not being in my life anymore. But as the months progressed and my dad got better, I realized how lucky I was to be surrounded by such a supportive community of individuals. And although it was a lot for me and my family, I had told myself that I needed to be strong, not only for myself, for my dad, but for my mom and for my siblings. And for better or for worse, I made the decision that I needed to be the happy kid. I needed to be the kid that, and no matter what room I was in, I was constantly smiling, constantly laughing, trying to always take care of one another. What I didn't realize is that I was not putting nearly as much of a priority on taking care of myself. I felt selfish in the idea of trying to share that I personally wasn't doing well, that I was struggling with the idea of lacking a father figure in a very important time in my life. And this is something that I guess lesson number 1 to all of you, and that is a repeated lesson that I will share multiple times, is that you are meant to share your struggles. No matter where you are, no matter what you are going through, no matter how old you are, we are intended to share our struggles and know that we are never alone in what we are going through. But as I continued to progress, like I said, I entered in the early years of high school, which, as you can see, I was the definition of a late bloomer. At freshman year of high school, I was 5 feet tall and maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. I made the decision to play football, which to my mother's resentment, she refused to drive me for the first 3 weeks, so I ended up like riding my bike to practice with these shoulder pads that were twice the size of me, and ended up having full practice and riding home. My mom was probably more worried about me getting potentially hit by a car than me playing football, so she ended up caving in and driving me to practice, which was pretty damn cool of her at the time. But my early years of high school were definitely a struggle because, as I'd mentioned, lacking that father figure in that period of time where I couldn't really talk to my dad as he was still relearning how to talk himself. I continued to bottle up my emotions. I actually had a note on my phone which was titled "How You Living," and every single night I would kind of sit down and write out some emotions that I was going through, and every single morning I would write out some motivational speeches and look up quotes to try and get myself to be motivated, to be happy, because like I had said, no matter what I was going through internally, externally, I had told myself I needed to be that positive person in every single room. But as high school progressed and I ended up making it to my junior year of high school, I would say this is probably the closest thing anyone could get to peaking in high school, because I felt like the man. I had finally reached the whopping height of 5'9", which was pretty damn cool on my part. Additionally, I ended up being a starting player on the varsity football team, eventually named captain. I was named captain of the rugby team. I looked so hard for a photo of it, but I got my first car, which was a 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee. The trunk wouldn't close, there was no AC, there was no aux cord, but I loved that car with my whole heart. It was really damn cool. I felt like I had developed a good group of friends. I was finally kind of getting my foot in the door with school. It really felt like all of those years of anxiety and like just this sadness that I had constantly told myself wasn't real, that I was just kind of trying to overthink everything. I felt like I had made it to this point in time, that junior year of high school, that I was just like, I'm good. You know, this is everything I need right now. Everything's gonna get better. Now, I've referred to them a little bit, but my two older brothers, Jake and Joey, are two of my best friends. Jake is 4 years older than me, and Joey is 2 years older than me, and our relative closest in age has really allowed us to develop a very strong connection. However, there's always been one factor that's differentiated Jake from Joey and I, and that is that probably the main reason why I decided to study neuroscience is because Jake has struggled with a number of mental health disorders his entire life. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder very early on. So Joey and I always made it our mission as two brothers to look out for Jake and to make sure that no matter what he was going through, that we were always going to be a strong support system. However, like I shared at this time, I had been caught up a little too much in all of the good that was happening in my own life, and I forgot my role as a younger brother and a guide for my older brother to check in on Jake. So in June of 2019, it was June 10th was the day, Jake had decided that he was going to try and get his driver's license. So it was it was 2 days before his exam, and I remember I had two finals on this day. It was the end of my junior year, and I told myself I was gonna go to school, take my two finals, come home, take Jake out for a test drive, make sure he was all good, make sure he was all calmed down, and just kind of like be there for him. Finals in high school definitely do take a lot out of you, so I came home pretty fatigued and told myself, you know what, I'm gonna take a quick nap, and upon waking up, I'll take Jake out for a ride. When I woke up, I went downstairs, and I was met by Joey and my aunt, and I kind of didn't know where my mom was, kind of didn't know where Jake was at the time, and my aunt was just like, they're just out right now, and Joey ended up getting a call, and we took that 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee to the same hospital that my dad had been in for 5 months during his recovery time, and we were met with my mom outside of the emergency room, and she got in. It was a pretty silent car ride home, and upon getting home, she finally took a deep breath and let us know that in an attempt to take his own life, Jake had taken one of our other cars and driven it into oncoming traffic. We had later found out that Jake had been struggling a lot mentally just with where he had stood at the time. He had transferred 2 colleges. He was really lacking any type of guidance in his life, which was hard for me to hear because I really did try to always tell myself I was gonna look out for him and always be positive with him. So once again, this kind of down in my life that I told myself I couldn't fully acknowledge because I had to be strong for my brother. I had to be strong for my mom. And it was a lot. It definitely was a lot. And headed into my senior year of high school, I definitely wasn't able to be as present as I wanted to be. I remember every single day I would come home and immediately check in on Jake as he was recovering, and I would try and text him as he had been in and out of different care units around the country. And I remember my senior year of football, I was just so overwhelmed with everything going on mentally, trying to take care of my brother, trying to take care of my family, that I really wasn't able to enjoy it nearly as much as I wanted to because of how unpresent I was. And I guess that leaves me with lesson number 2 for you guys, is that be where your feet are, be present, listen to everything you can possibly listen to, see everything you possibly can see that's directly around you, because you really never know at any moment that could be taken away from you. And at this time, with the built-up of medical bills from my father as well as my older brother, I was in a difficult financial situation. I had previously been offered a verbal commitment to play rugby at a university. However, the university did not offer athletic scholarships. They only offered financial aid, and the financial aid that they offered was not substantial enough. So what I decided to do was I decommitted from the school verbally. It wasn't anything written. I applied to a few other schools and was blessed enough to get into USC, to which I was able to fly out and interview for with this amazing flower tie, which I'm sure is the only reason why I got the scholarship, but was blessed with a full tuition scholarship to USC. And as I was headed into my senior year of rugby, and as Jake was getting better and my father was getting better, and it just felt like things were starting to pick up, as we all know of what happened in early 2020, a pandemic hit. And that pretty much changed a lot for me. So over the summer, as we kind of all were in our separate quarantine worlds, and I was waiting to hear back from what USC was doing for housing, I had received an email saying that due to just the increase in COVID cases, that they were not going to offer housing in the fall, meaning that while I watched all of my friends go off to college and start this new chapter of their life that we were all so excited for, I was going to be home in my parents' basement taking classes online. And this is when everything finally hit me. So what you're seeing right here is a journal that I started on my 18th birthday, and I titled it the same thing as I had in the note on my phone for my sophomore year. And I remember that this was the point in my life where those years from 12 to 18, kind of everything compiled up. And I remember I was sitting there trying to have a conversation with my mom, and she could just tell that there was a lot on my mind. And I told her that she didn't have to worry about me, and my mom looked at me and she said, "Luke, out of all my children, you are by far the one I worry about the most." And that absolutely rocked me, because to the outside eye, I was the perfect kid. I had a full tuition scholarship to a great school, a 2-sport captain, a perfect, there couldn't be a single problem in my life. And I convinced myself that that was true. I convinced myself that I had to be this person that everyone could look to and everyone be like, this kid's got it all figured out. And I crumbled. And this was definitely the point in my life that it really all hit me. And due to this, I tried to find an outlet in which I could have control in my life. And I ended up doing so through physical activity and through counting calories in what was my first experience and what I would later become to know as an eating disorder. So, as you can see, in April of 2020, at the start of the pandemic, I'm up here on the left and up here on the right, and on the left is me. 7 months later in October, and I don't share this to kind of say, hey, I look kind of good. I share this to say that this is what I had told myself I needed to do to have control of my life. I needed to understand that if I was eating a singular M&M, that it had to be tracked in MyFitnessPal. I understood that I had to do a concerning amount of push-ups every single day in order to keep this level of physical, I don't even know, just this appearance that I was doing well for myself, because people would look at me and they're like, oh, even though he's, going through stuff at home, he looks good at least. And I told myself, once again, that outside persona, but eventually this is, like I had said, it had all caught up, and I'd realized I'm not happy. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can share with lesson number 3, is that you need to be real with yourself when life starts to get real. You cannot continuously push past and push aside the emotions, the problems that you have in your life just because you think you need to be good or strong for other people. The only person that you truly need to be strong for is yourself. And although this period of time in my life was unfortunate, eventually, as all things do, we progress. and I was able to eventually go out to USC. For the second half of my freshman year, I was able to join an amazing friend group. I ended up running my first marathon, which was definitely a troubling experience because I did so without any coaching, but it was a good time. And I had really decided to start giving back to myself in my junior year and said, hey, you know what, this physical activity thing, I like it a lot, and why not try and post about it? So that's what's gotten me to the past year of my life. And while I could sit here and talk about the many competitions that I've partaked in and all the lessons that I've learned in them, I think the biggest lesson that I could probably share with you guys is more so the mental side of things. And that through this life that we have, each and every single person in this room has their own personal story that has defined them, that has brought them to be the person that they are here today. You cannot be afraid to share your struggles. You cannot be afraid to share your story, because you genuinely have no idea how your words and your stories and your experiences could genuinely help save someone else unknowingly. So, I like to say this quote a lot, but life does not happen how we plan it to, rather it always happens as it is intended. And that is because no matter what, we could have everything that we think we have figured out, in the blink of an eye, everything can change right in that moment. So, just accept whatever comes your way, accept the ups and downs, because at the ups, you want to be able to embrace every single good moment, every single positive opportunity you have, and at the downs, you have to realize that this is a temporary thing, that this is not going to be a permanent struggle, that I can define myself in this situation by taking away the lessons that I want to learn from and not have this be a reason or an excuse for why I fall off from anything. So I stand here today to share my story so that you can all hear the periods of my life, where nothing seems to be going your way and only temporary and will always get better in the end. When I say how grateful I am for everything, I think of the days I wanted it to all go away. When I smile and try to be positive, I think of the days that I couldn't think of a single reason to be happy. When I'm energetic or the loudest person in the room, I think of all the days I did not have the courage or energy to have a voice. I could not be more grateful to be where I am today with the lessons I have learned and every single experience that I've endured, as I would not be the person I am today without every single thing that that has happened to me. And last but not least, I just want to remind you all once again that you are never alone, you are always supported, you are always loved. Share your struggles, be there for those you care about, and be there for yourself. Thank you.